Generation. One of the most important indicators of humanity for a SIM card is incoming calls. The GoAntiFraud service solves this problem by generating calls. The essence of the generation is that the card's channel closing and waiting for an incoming call. The system searches for an available channel and it makes a call to this card. For the successful generation, the system should specify phone numbers. A correctly specified number is a must, as the dialing is carried out exactly according to the specified numbers. Once again, I would like to emphasize that the generation is a request of the incoming call from an available card. You can set up the generation in the tariff option. Generated calls. Stated as a percentage and determines the numbers of generated calls relative to all. For example, specifying a value as 10%, which means that 1 of 10 calls is generated. In this formula, A, a specified percentage of the generated calls, 1 generated call, U, the number of calls prior to the generation. Let us examine 10%. Thus, specifying 10% of generated calls, we get 1 generated call of 10. The card will behave as follows. As soon as traffic is received, the card starts making outgoing calls. After the card has made 9 calls, it requests an incoming call. The duration of the generated calls determines the time of each of the generated call. The important point is a spread in values. On the right, you can see the window for the spread. The purpose is to set a different duration of the generated calls by simulating a human being. For instance, we set 3 minutes for the generated call, applying a scatter of 50%. We calculate the maximum and minimum values to take the duration of the call. Accordingly, the minimum value will be 180 minus 90 equal 90 seconds, and the maximum is 180 plus 90 equal 270 seconds. Thus, the duration of the generated call will randomly fluctuate from 1.5 90 seconds up to 4.5 minutes, 270 seconds. Generated calls in advance. As previously mentioned, the card will receive incoming calls after a certain number of outgoing calls are made. But you can also receive generated calls prior to real traffic, excluding calls.